So my topic is how to go mainstream with renewable energy, and it's, as you know, the current source of energy are diesel energy or nuclear energy or coal, get it from various sources, and but renewable energy has not become a mainstream source of energy. So we got to see how you can actually make it something that ensures that we have a longer security, energy security for years to come. Okay. In fact, whole of my talk is dependent on this slide, and it's about sun. I mean, whatever energy right now we are getting is from sun. I mean, if you consider even fossil fuels, they are actually coming, whatever was burnt, I mean, like animals or plants or anything like that, those were like decayed, and for millions of years they got decayed, and eventually we are using it now. But you see it, we are using in a span of less than 1,000 years for what took millions of years to form. So that itself shows the inequality, that time taken to make something is being used in a fraction of a thing. And if you see whether you are getting rainfall to earth, it is primarily because there is sunlight. I mean, sun actually ensures there is a mechanism that you have rainfall and your rivers are filled and you have something like hydropower coming up. Or if you see solar energy again is dependent on sunlight, and you use sunlight to actually generate. So time and again we should know that the energy for the earth is always from sun. I mean, like you got to find out techniques. I mean, I'm also an electronics engineer, but I see many of you electronics engineers who have a lot of experience should actually start thinking how you can apply electronics engineering in getting as much energy from sun and using it right away. I mean, the statement says the energy that earth receives from sun in 1 hour can meet humankind's needs for one whole year. So the last sentence, that is, provided we can capture the energy, convert it and deliver it. That's where engineering comes into picture. That's where we have to apply our intelligence to actually make it usable. So the whole of whatever I speak going further is dependent on this whole premise. Okay. Okay, let's go to the way how the current trend in energy industry is right now. I mean, this I got from V2 Energy. You see that oil is like dipping. The amount of energy that you are getting it from oil is reducing over the years. But even the growth wise, there's an increase in use of gas, of course. But you can see that the renewables is increasing. So it is an assurance that renewable energy will actually make some amount of impact in terms of usage. So it is the right field to be, if you ask me. I mean, for 10,000 of years, man dependent, or rather millions of years, like man depended on sunlight, and now we are going back there because we know that the fossil fuels which took millions of years to form cannot be formed in like hundreds of years or thousands of years. So this gives us hope that renewable energy can actually still keep us alive. Okay, this solar panels, solar energy, wind is like very mainstream, that you pretty much know how it works. So as engineers we should start thinking which are the other ways by which we can harvest energy. Like for example, there's tidal energy, which is just similar to a wind system but inside a ocean or a sea. So there's so much of engineering involved in it that electronics engineers can actually put their mind and make it viable. So, and of course biogas, something which has been used but it has not become mainstream because there are some issues which has not been tackled. So these are like kind of, if you consider biogas, it doesn't really involve some kind of electronics engineering. But if you guys can actually think of, like if I can set up a control system to a biogas plant and make it more viable. So much of engineering is involved, and it can actually become mainstream if you can consider. Okay, talking of renewable energy, the energy that you get and the energy that you use are not same. I mean the quantity. I mean you might want to switch off 100 lights in your home, but you don't get that much at your demand. Sunlight doesn't operate according to your demands of energy needs. So you got to have some kind of a stabilizing medium that ensures that you have continuous source of energy while the sunlight is like fluctuating because of clouds or whatever climatic condition or weather condition changing. So there's a lot of engineering involved in storage. I mean the means to actually ensure that the demand is met according to your requirements. Like the straightforward, one of the things which has been one of the oldest technology in storage is like battery, lead acid battery. So we know there are a lot of issues in lead acid batteries. So people are coming up with newer technologies. Like we also use the normal carbon batteries as well for smaller utilities. But the latest trend is in using something apart from these two. Like for example, ultra capacitor or a supercapacitor. Supercapacitor is something that is similar to a capacitor and has a durability or reliability much more than your lead acid battery, and maintenance is also less. But still it has not entered mainstream because there are a lot of issues involved in it, but that can be engineered to make it viable. Probably not just building a supercapacitor, but also building allied circuits for supercapacitors that can make it suitable for renewable energy or any other means of energy for that matter. So I would say we as engineers should start thinking about how we can start using supercapacitors and make it possible in our equipments. So, and some of the primitive older ways is using actually a water tank. I mean tank is again gravitational energy and you store it at an height and make it a storage medium. So probably you can use this as well instead of actually storing it in battery and directly pump it to wherever you want. So I just wanted to give a spectrum of storage. I mean I recently came across a professor from MIT, his name is Shadoway. He has come up with something called liquid metal batteries. So according to his talk that I have heard, and also one of the students I am in contact with, they have come up with some batteries which comes at grid pricing. I mean the price of the battery is like it works out, the economics of it actually works out with the price of the electricity that we buy. So I would say there's a lot of scope for engineering for energy storage, which is very essential for renewable energy sources, primarily because renewable energy don't come at our disposal. I mean it varies according to the climatic condition. So I would recommend many of you to consider working on battery technologies as well, especially students sitting here. Okay, renewable energy is a vast area. I would not dwell into all these things. I mean in this given time slot and considering my limited knowledge, I would just focus on solar to start with. I mean solar industry itself is like kind of booming, they say, and I mean government has come up with a scheme called Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission Scheme, where they want to have 20 gigawatts of power by 2020. I don't know how effective it will be, but still. So let's concentrate on something that is more possible. So as you know, solar panels harvest solar energy and it converts it to electricity using semiconductor technology, and then you have something called a charge controller that moderates the charge flow from the solar panel to your battery system or an inverter system. I mean the electronic circuitry is nothing but some kind of pulse width modulation circuitry where it effectively converts the energy. It's a DC-DC converter, and then you have a battery system and the inverter. So the thing is the inverter technology is pretty I would say, I mean if I take liberty, I would say it is pretty ancient. So we have had inverter technologies in the past. We should take advantage of what has been developed in the past and try to come up with something that makes really a reliable source of energy that is coming from solar. So there is a lot of scope in that area as well. In solar alone, there are ways by which you can use it. One is like something like off-grid. You have complete autonomy on it, like you in using the energy. You don't depend on the grid. You have solar panels and you have a balance of system, which I just now mentioned, a charge controller, a battery bank, and a DC to AC inverter, and you can completely suffice the requirement. So that is one kind of system where it is pretty popular. The next one is something called a grid-tied system. As I told you, like solar energy has to be stored because it can't be used at your disposal. I mean, it doesn't come at your disposal. I mean, so what if you actually generate the energy and give it to the mainstream grid? So you're not having this battery. So you're not only reducing the cost of battery, but you're also reducing the reliability issues that involve in a battery. And overall, the system cost comes down, and you're actually making money by actually selling electricity that you get from sun. So this is something that has to become more popular. Unfortunately, it involves a lot of schemes from government. So government is coming up with schemes where in which you can have solar panels on your rooftop and feed it to the grid, and you can actually get discount on your electricity, as well as you can also generate revenue by having solar panels. So this is something called a grid-tied system. You can actually have a hybrid of grid-tied as well as battery system. That is left to your creativity. I'm sure it is. We have tried it and it has worked. So those systems eventually come up, and its variants of that will come up over the years of time. Okay, so what I talked just now is something that is like standard technology, standard knowledge that most of you would already have. So, but my goal here is to deliver something how it can be made mainstream. I mean, this place you say has a lot of rooftop, and I would say still, if there is some policies in place where the price has come down of solar panels, probably the whole auditorium would have been powered by solar. So I'll talk about something very relevant to that in future. I mean, in my coming slides. So I would say, like, probably you can think of when you go out of this place how much was the energy consumed and things like that. And I suppose most of you use mobile phones, and mobile phone of many places when you go to you don't get coverage. So you feel like, what is this? My network is not good. So the problem is not only with the telecommunication network, it's also about the energy that you need for this telecommunication network. Like, for example, this is a picture. I actually took this when I had gone to Nepal. I took this picture where there is like no road transport. You got to walk up, you have to trek and go to that place. But still there is a network connectivity because someone had set up a telecom tower and there is a solar panel. So what if something like this works in a location like Nepal and in some totally pahadi area, whatever you call? So why not everywhere? So of course there are issues. That's where engineering comes. So I recommend many of you to consider how you can actually make sure that solar energy can be used for telecom industry. And one more thing is like you can food storage. I mean, like energy you make food is generally produced, or what are the whether it's milk or is produced in a location where you don't have consumer right away. So you need to have some kind of a storage system. So probably that is one more area where electronics engineers can come up with systems that will enable refrigeration through solar or renewable energy for that matter in general. Not need not to be solar photovoltaics, it could be other technology as well. We are considering solar thermal and having a embedded control system to have some kind of a tracking system and do some kind of refrigeration. Who people interested in can contact me after the talk. Yeah, and this is what I was talking about, building integrated photovoltaics. A building has roofing material, so you need roofing material as such. Why not make the roofing material energy harvesting material? So what is stopping us from not using those materials? So there is a lot of scope for that as well. I mean, wherein which you have a solar panel roof and you have arrays connected together, all of them, and then you have a solar charge controller and 3-phase inverter, and it could even be consumption at the same point, or you could feed it to the grid. But rooftops could be energy harvesters. So it is one more way in which you can make it mainstream. Okay, though the earth has 2/3 of earth is like water, but where you need water is like places where you do agriculture. I mean, you have to come up with ideas by which you can pump water at your requirement. So solar water pumping is very standard idea. So I would say like this itself has a lot of potential. It can actually become mainstream if the technology becomes viable, cheaper and reliable. Many times, I mean, there is like many policies government is giving, but we are not aware of it. Probably I would say many of you should do some research on that and try to avail this facility. As electronics engineers, you should start thinking about how this can be made more efficient and reliable. So I would say like how a smaller system can be designed at a lower cost and a bigger system at a much lower cost, and there should be some kind of mechanism, I mean electronic circuitry or some intelligent algorithm that would say how I could reduce the amount of water pumping based on my requirement. So for this I will tell you about one of the projects that we are actually working on. This is where my contribution to the talk would be highest. So we are working with a research professor who has got his degree in agriculture from Indian Institute of Science. So he has come up with an algorithm wherein which you can you do some kind of irrigation based on soil moisture content. So you might be wondering how is it actually connected to renewable energy talk. I'll tell you how. What he does is like he measures the soil moisture content and actually does irrigation based on the soil moisture content and type of crop. So in that way you are optimizing the amount of water that is going to the field. Now the water, if you are reducing the amount of water that is going to the field, you are also reducing the amount of water that has to be pumped. So when you are reducing the amount of water that has to be pumped, you are actually having a smaller solar panel to do the pumping. So it's all interconnected. So he's done such that it has a highest yield, very high yield of energy, high yield of productivity from the crops or from the agriculture field, and at the same time consuming lesser amount of water and lesser amount of sunlight, lesser amount of solar panel. So you have reduced the solar panel size so that you can do optimal irrigation. So this could actually become mainstream, wherein which if we start measuring the water content and do irrigation, the solar panel which you saw in the previous size is huge. Probably the size of the solar panel can come down and you might be buying a smaller solar panel and you might see that economics might actually work out for you to get a solar panel and have irrigation. You do not have to go for a mainstream mainstream energy from grid or something like that. So you might, government can even consider not giving subsidy and still farmer ready to buy it. So this is where like electronics engineers, as electronics engineers we should start thinking about how we can come up with algorithms, how we can come up with electronic circuitry that would ensure lower sizing and higher productivity. We have by the way exhibited this in our stall. I would request you to visit it if you have time. We have a demo model of that, and we have even got a casing done, and one of my friends is actually sitting here who got the casing done for it. So I request you to visit our stall. Okay, one more technology. How many more minutes? 10 minutes. Okay. So one more technology that we are working right now is on microgrid. So what is a microgrid? We have grid connectivity. We are connected with main electricity grid from the Karnataka Electricity Board or BESCOM or something like that. So it is connected to whole housing location everywhere and things like that. But do you think the level of connectivity is as good in the rural area as well as that is in urban area? No, you don't see that. So and since there are lesser people dwelling in those places, there is the grid penetration has also been less. So some of them don't get electricity at all. What if you actually connect a electricity grid in some of those locations? So that's where microgrid comes. You set up a energy generating source, but to generate energy you need some kind of energy source. It could be solar, solar, wind or something like renewable energy source. It could be anywhere because from the prisma, as I told, the energy is coming from sun. So set up a solar plant and connect to houses and give electricity just like the way electricity is given in our houses in urban location. So this is the whole idea of microgrid. You actually set up a plant completely decentralized, which is not connected to the main grid, and you give electricity to these houses, just like the house in this one. Maybe the magnitude of electricity they consume might be less, but still the organization of giving electricity can be similar. You can have meters in each houses, and actually there is an economic model where in which a person invests on a plant in that place and actually takes care of the whole plant and collects electricity bill on a monthly basis, and becomes a normal way of electricity generation and usage, and it is not connected to the grid. So this gets some kind of autonomy. It is not dependent on the main grid because of there is some kind of maintenance that is happening on the main grid, or because there is some power plant failure. You are not deprived of electricity because this is completely coming from sun. Sun is eternal. At least when we are alive, it is there. So we even built a small model of this and came up with the idea, and right now we have signed up a MOU with a German company setting up a microgrid in villages. I would be more than happy to discuss more about how we are doing this. In fact, our article our work came up in innovation section, I think of July section of Electronics for You. If you get to read it, you probably just check it out, or you can contact me after the talk how we are planning to go about building microgrids in rural India. So this all all that is something that is possible. I mean, it's already there. So there are other things like you can have something like a glass which has it is a solar panel. I'm talking about some futuristic technology where the glass itself could harvest energy, and it could be some kind of a spray on it, which is some kind of photovoltaic material, something like that, and generate electricity. And there are some models of that as well. You build a whole building using these kind of solar photovoltaics and power the whole building, or maybe even feed it to the grid. And yeah, there are also technologies wherein which you print solar panels on a sheet of paper, just like you have printer at home. You have solar panels that are being printed at your place. So you never know. I mean, this has already been tried and tested out. So when the economics work out, probably we might be having solar printers, and we might be using it in all the places wherever probably even our costumes would be solar panels. You never know. So probably you ought to look into it. And there's also something like a solar I don't remember the exact name. Oh yeah, it is like solar impulse. Yeah, it is written there. So they have come up with a plane which actually has gone around the globe using solar panels. So if you can build a solar aeroplane, what not? I mean, renewable energy is actually possible. So with that, I want to end with this quote by Franz Kafka, which says, "The non-existent is what have not sufficiently been desired." So it is left to your imagination. If you desire for doing something that actually becomes a mainstream, it can be done. So I end my talk. Thanks for sitting, or you can ask me any question or anything like that. Thank you. Thank you all. I should also say, first time I'm giving a talk in front when my dad is there. He was the one inspiration for me to get into electronics. My first lessons in electronics was from my dad. I would say like all thanks to him.